Welcome everyone. Today we will discuss society and diversity. And our session highlights will be understanding society and diversity, aspects of diversity, why diversity matters, challenges of diversity, strategies for inclusion. Now come to understand what is diversity and what does it mean when we call society and diversity. Society and diversity are not separate things that happen to interact. They are fundamentally bound together. Imagine a society as a grand canvas. Its structure is its frame, and steady and strong, upon its diversity flows like colors. Each hue, each shade, each stroke adding its depth. Together, they create not just an image, but a living masterpiece that resilient in form, radiant in meaning, and a portrait that speaks to the world a vision of unity in diversity, shining as ours for all humanity. Now, diversity in society refers to the range of differences among individuals and groups. These differences can be based on a variety of factors such as ethnicity, culture, economic status, political beliefs, religion, gender, sexual orientation, age, etc. Embracing diversity means recognizing the value that the differences, perspective, and the expressions that we bring to a community or society. In modern world, where societies are increasingly multicultural and interconnected, understanding and appreciating diversity is crucial for building more equitable, inclusive, and cohesive communities. Now, the relationship between diversity and society can be understood in three ways or three perspectives. One, from foundational perspective. Here, diversity sees as the raw material of society because society cannot function without differences. Uniformity in skills, perspective, and backgrounds would create a static monolithic rather than a dynamic community. Diversity across cultures, ethnicity, gender, thought, profession provides the division of labor and multiplicity of viewpoint that is essential for building any complex system such as economic, governance, or legal structures. Now come to the functional perspective. Here, like in biology, where ecosystem with huge or high diversity are the most resilient to disease and climate shift. Likewise, human societies mirror these principles. When confronted with crises, diverse populations contribute a broader range of experiences and problem-solving strategies that will enhancing adaptability and survival tactics. This diversity also enriches cultural wealth as the intersections of traditions, arts, language, all are fuels cultural evolution and generations and generates richer global perspective. Now come to the challenges. A diverse society is not automatically harmonious. It must continually balance cohesion and fragmentation. When diversity is mismanaged, it may lead into tribalism, prejudices, and systematic inequality, especially if dominant culture marginalizes minority groups. Stability requires moving beyond mere tolerance. Stability requires where moving beyond mere tolerance, simply enduring differences towards genuine inclusion, where diversity is embraced as a strength and safeguard through equitable institutions. In this way, society may shape whether diversity is celebrated or suppressed, while diversity itself determines how vibrant, resilient, and innovative that society can become more richer. Each depends on each other, and neither can thrive in isolation. Let us come to the diversity itself. What diversity actually means. Diversity signifies the condition of having or being composed of different elements, such as variety, particularity, through the inclusion of people from different race, culture, and background within a group or organization. This fosters a wide range of perspectives and encourage dynamic interaction among individuals. In simple terms, diversity encompasses both surface level and deep level differences. While surface level diversity includes observable characteristics like ethnicity, gender, age, disability, these are features that can be noticed quickly in an individual. Otherwise, deep diversity refers to large visible differences such as belief, values, and perspective. Let us come to the aspects of diversity. There are different types of diversity. While some are visible to the world, others are much more interconnected. Some can be controlled and still others remain the same. Now come to the types of diversity. Here we may differentiate internal diversity that are include race, gender, ethnicity, national origin, cultural diversity, difficulties, disabilities. Now external diversities like education, skill and interest, religion, geographical location, relationship status, socioeconomic status, experiences, citizenship. Others is organizational structures or organizational diversity, work location, job function, department, management status, level of seniority, and worldviews like political view, knowledge, culture, etc. Now come to the ethnic diversity. Ethnic diversity are basically ethnic groups of a people who share common ancestry, cultural tradition, language, or social identity. They form the building blocks of ethnic diversity. Here are some major types of ethnic diversity. Indigenous people, they are basically the original inhabitant of a region. Majority ethnic groups, they are the dominant groups in terms of population or numerical value, like Hindus in India, Han Chinese in China, Russians in Russia. Then minority ethnic groups, smaller population is within a larger group. Tribal and clan-based ethnic groups, diaspora communities groups are those who living outside their ancestral homeland due to migration, like Indian diaspora in the UK or African diaspora in the America. Regional ethnicities, they are the group tied to specific geographic region within a country, like Tamils and Punjabis in India. And mixed and hybrid ethnic groups, these are the communities formed through intermarriage and cultural blending, like Anglo-Indians, Afro-Caribbean groups, etc. Cultural diversity. To fully understand cultural diversity, it helps to break it down into the various dimensions that shape how groups and individuals experience the world. Here are some basic classification of cultural diversity or cultural diversified groups. One, ethno-national diversity, such as ethnic diversity, national diversity. Linguistic diversity, like Spanish, Arabic, it may include dialects, accents, sign languages. Now, religious and spiritual diversity, these are the major world religions like Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, and various others indigenous religious practices or spiritual beliefs. Now, generation and age diversity. Different age groups develop distinct subcultures, such as the cultural gap, communication style, workplace values. Now, socioeconomic and class diversity. The socioeconomic status in individual belong to heavily influence their cultural experience too, like education, language, habitat, societal inequalities, lifestyles, art, choices, etc. These patterns also may be included here. Now, regional and geographic diversity. Urban, rural, city dwellers and rural communities. Here maybe include regional variations, etc. Now come to the economic diversity. Economic diversity refers to the variety of economic roles activities, and contributions that exist within a society. It also highlights the differences that present in wealth, income, occupation, and access to resource, like income diversity, high income professionals, middle class workers, low income laborers, occupational diversity, like teachers, engineers, artisans, entrepreneurs, industrial and sectoral diversity, like manufacturers, services, IT, tourism, agriculture. Now, urban rural economic diversity, like urban tech jobs versus rural subsistence farming, formal and informal economy, like corporate versus street vendors or daily wage laborers. Now, wealth distributions on diversity, like landowners, renters, landless workers, global and regional economic diversity, like export-oriented economics versus local subsistence economics, global multinational companies versus national regional companies, educational and skill-based diversity, it implies high-skilled professionals versus unskilled laborers or semi-unskilled laborers. Now come to the point of the political diversity. Political diversity refers to the coexistence of multiple political belief systems and practices within a society. It also reflects how people organize governance that will express their ideologies and anticipate in decision making, like ideological diversity, liberalism, conservatism, socialism, communism, environmentalism, party system diversity, two-party system exist in USA or multi-party system that exists in India, governance models like democracy, monarchy, federalism, parliamentary versus presidential system, representational diversity like women's representation, minority representation, youth participation. Now, policy diversity like welfare policies versus free market policies, environmental policies versus industrial priorities policies. Now, regional political diversity, like various different parties that exist in India, DMK, Shiv Sena, TMC, etc. Or global political diversity, like socialist states that exist in Cuba, liberal democracies that exist in UK, or authoritarian regions in North Korea. Gender diversity. Gender diversity refers to the presence and recognition of different gender identities, roles, and expressions within a society. It emphasizes inclusion beyond the traditional binary of male or female, acknowledging the complexity of human identity, such as binary genders, like male and female, transgender identities, like trans men, trans women, non binary, or gender queer. These are the people who are identifying as both or neither or fluid between genders. Then gender fluid, someone who feels male at one time and female on the other or on non-binary at another. Then agender, people who see themselves as gender neutral. Then third gender or culturally specific identities. These are basically hijras in South Asia or two-spirit indigenous that exist in North American cultures. Now intersex, people born with biological characteristics that did not fit typically dimensions of male or female. Sexual diversity. Sexual diversity refers to the variety of sexual orientation that an individual possesses. It is basically the identities and the expression that exist within a society. It acknowledges people experience attraction and relationships in different ways, like heterosexuality, where people are attracted to individual of the opposite sex, like male-female relationship. Homosexuality, attraction to individual of the same sex, like gay men, lesbian women. Bisexuality, attraction to both men and women. Pansexuality, attraction regardless of gender identity. Queer or fluid orientations, non-fixed or evolving sexual identities. Cultural specific identities, like sexual identities that recognize in particular societies or a context related, like hijras in South Asia. Now come to the ability and or disability diversity. Ability or disability diversity refers to the range of physical, sensory, cognitive, and psychological abilities that people possess differently. Like physical disabilities, here people using wheelchairs or prosthetics or mobility aids. Sensory disabilities, blindness, low vision, deafness, hearing loss. cognitive and intellectual disabilities like Down syndrome, developmental delays, learning disabilities, neurodiversity is most important, differences in brain functioning and processing like autism, spectrum, ADHD, dyslexia, then psychological and mental health conditions like depression, anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, chronic illness and invisible disabilities like diabetes, epilepsy, chronic fatigue syndrome, then temporary disabilities. This happened due to broken limb or recovery from a surgery. SEDG diversity, that is socially and economically disadvantaged group. Disadvantaged group. ACDGs are communities that face systematic barrier in access to resources, opportunities, and representations. They are recognized in education and policy framework in India in NEP 2020. To ensure inclusion and equity, they listed one, scheduled caste SCs, scheduled tribe STs, other backward classes OBCs, women and gender minorities, person with disabilities, economically weaker sections, minority communities, rural and remote populations. Now come why diversity matters. Diversity plays a vital role in strengthening the fabric of society. It nurtures social cohesion by fostering tolerance and empathy among individuals, while simultaneously dividing innovations and creativity through the exchange of varied perspectives that generate fresh solutions and breakthrough. By recognizing and valuing diversity, societies promote equity and justice, ensuring fair treatment, equal rights, and social inclusion. Moreover, diversity builds resilience as differences in thought and identity enhance adaptability during crisis. It also enriches knowledge by broadening critical thinking, expanding worldviews, and deepening understanding. Finally, diversity safeguards cultural heritage and ensuring that traditions, language, and artistic erosions not only survive but flourish across generations. Now come the challenges of diversity. What are the challenges? Diversity, when poorly managed, can give rise to the several challenges like discrimination, bias, and political polarization that will weaken social trust, while language barrier hinder communication and integration. Social inequality and ethnocentrism deepen divisions. The lack of representation silence the minority voices. Economic and cultural stratification intensifies disparities, often leading to marginalization and restricted access to resources to a limited one. Thus, mismanagement of diversity also heightens the risk of conflict and persistent representation gap, especially for women, ethnic minorities, and marginalized communities, that will limit inclusivity and equitable participation. Now, what does it mean or the strategies for inclusion? Addressing the challenges of diversity requires deliberate strategies across multiple domains. Here, education may play a central role by embedding intellectual understanding into curriculum. Addressing the challenge of diversity requires deliberate strategies across multiple domains. Here, education may play a central role by embedding intellectual understanding into curricula and fostering dialogue among students. Policy framework must enforce anti-discrimination laws and support affirmative action to ensure fairness and inclusion. Community integration is equally vital, encouraging diverse groups to participate actively in civic life and decision-making processes. Finally, equity initiatives should target structural inequalities in health, education, unemployment that will ensure the opportunities and resources that are distributed more justly across society. Now, come to the here conclusion. When we examine the mechanics of social organizations, it becomes clear that diversity itself is not inherently a source of social friction. The mere coexistence of distinct cultural, ethnic, or social groups does not automatically trigger conflict or systematically disadvantages for its member. Rather, the critical inflection point occurs when a society moves from simple differentiation to stratification. The problem arises when these distinct groups are organized into a rigid evaluative ranking system. By assessing differential values to these groups, society eventually transforms from a horizontal landscape to a vertical hierarchical structure. Once this hierarchy is established, the dynamic of power inevitably takes center stage here. What was once collection of different identities is restructured into binary power relationships like dominance and subordination, structural majorities, minorities, institutionalized notions of superiority, inferiority, and ultimately the issue is never end with the variety of human experiences within a population. It becomes the political and structural engineering that weaponizes those differences into unequal distribution of power. Thank you.